Well, that was really good, except for you.
All right, take two.
All right, take two. Marker. Thanks, Tyler.
Fucking asshole.
So to continue, we've all grown up in and around the coastline of Rhode Island. We all own businesses here in Rhode Island. And one of the questions that I always get when I'm out on the water is, Zach, what do the wind farms mean to you? What do you think about them? And for the longest time, it was always, it's kind of a loaded question, right? Because on one hand, I like the idea of renewable energy. I like that idea, sustainability.
I agree with that too.
Right, and I don't think anyone is like, let's not do that, right?
Well,
but on the other hand,
you have one dissenter over here.
Okay,
we'll get to that after.
But on the other hand, it's like, how do we do that without impacting something that has been so traditional here in New England, especially, which is fishing. There's a lot of intrinsic value of living and seeing a clear ocean, unobstructed by big steel wind turbines. So it is a loaded question, and I'm excited to dive in to learn more about, from a fishing perspective, what that means to you guys. So I guess that's kind of really the question, and how I think we should kick this off is, what do the wind farms mean to you? But more importantly, what does it mean to live in Rhode Island and work and live by the coastline? Who's kicking it off?
I need to get warmed up a little bit.
I'm going to say someone that went to college here. I'm not a Rhode Islander. I chose to, after military service, my family, we chose to live here. We chose to make Rhode Island our home. Mm-hmm. We realize what a beautiful place it is, how awesome it is. And now I feel like we're fighting for it. I feel like we're fighting to protect something that is being destroyed. You know, when it was 5 windmills out of Block Island, maybe you just kind of go, huh. Now we're talking about 2,000.
Yeah.
And we're talking about 2,000 that are higher and taller than any building in Boston. You take those basic things and you say that to people and you go, huh? And that's where I start going, now something's up.
Right.
Right? So that's kind of, does that warm you up?
Yeah. Thanks.
Cooled me off a little bit. Corey?
Yeah, so I grew up in a fishing family. My grandfather was a fisherman. My dad's a fisherman. My older brother's a fisherman. My mom's side, she has ancestors that were fishing in the same waters, in the same places, in the same fisheries as me since the 1800s.
Wow.
You know, it's a tradition in our family. The Block Island wind farms are babies, and they were sort of a study to see what could happen. What we're talking about now is a whole different beast. I mean, it's literally the industrialization of our ocean, and it's sort of the last frontier. And we've fucked up everything else. Why, you know?
You win. The first F-bomb. There you go. You win.
For those listening, it was an over and under on who would say the F-bomb first.
I'm paying. You win.
We all had bets on Ralph.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
So for me, I mean, literally take a look at every car in front of you at traffic. We're the ocean state.
Yeah.
And that, in and of itself, should mean something more than just what's stamped on your license plate. We have a vast coastline for such a tiny state. We're steeped in history. We, as people that live on this continent, owe our actual existence here due to the Basque fishermen who go way, way back. Without salted cod, we would have never made it here. We've been plying the oceans responsibly for a long time. We got a little irresponsible in the whale days, and that's when modernization and lights and things like that started to come along. So it's the whole problem with how far do you develop and in what forms do you develop technology. And technology that you were talking about with the renewable, I just want to state that, you know, it's as simple as looking up. If you wanted a renewable source of energy, you'd see the fission reactor in the sky. We have nuclear capabilities. They're good enough for every warcraft on Earth and have been for 60-something years, but they're not good enough for the people. And so renewable energy, unfortunately, is just intertwined with green. And the only thing green about renewable energy as it exists today is the money that changes hands. One thing's for certain about these wind farms. Get rid of all the fishing thing. The basic thing for me is that your electricity and your electric bill will go up to the point of another mortgage. And that's what should gather people first and be the binding point. It's the most expensive energy on the planet. It's 1,000+ years old, and we're turning to it and putting steel out in salt water because it's always done well, you know.
Where did we get the steel?
From the earth.
Where did it come from?
Mined it.
Over countries? Do we do it here?
We used to.
We used to.
And there's no such thing as renewable energy without fossil fuels.
Well,
Yeah.
nuclear.
Oh yeah, but to build these things,
right? But to build it, to build the plants and to do everything else, and so you look to Europe. I mean, that's where it started. We didn't need that experiment at Block Island.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the Merker Sea off Germany is massive, and the one off Thanet in the UK is the largest on the planet, and they're in the ocean. Everything around them has died. They know this. It's irrefutable. The turbidity, everything aside, and those are small, tiny ones close to shore.
Yep.
We're putting them out into the ocean, and as you stated earlier, Corey, we have fucked this planet up enough. Take a look around you. Take a look at the way we're the only thing that doesn't fit in.
Yeah.
And we've paved over everything, and now we want to.
Yeah, and also I'll add to the Europe thing. My husband's from Ireland, and we have friends and family over there. Their electric bills have gone up 3 to 4 times. And I'm in touch with people from over there because I put a lot of stuff on my Instagram page, just spreading information about it. And a woman from Denmark said that she came from a fishing community. There's literal fishing boat graveyards there now. There's no. They've the only fishing that remains is in the museum.
It dies once you electrify the cables, and it's not so much the building, which there's a lot of arguments there for about what the actual building does, the sounding and the sonar and everything else, and the construction and the hammering of the pilings down into the mud. It's when you electrify it that the true destruction occurs. That's when all the larvae from everything from plankton up the food chain gets killed.
Yeah. So let's take a little bit of a step back, right? Because I think it's easy. It's easy to get emotional, right, onto taking over the ocean, industrialization, crushing the fishing industry. But there's always, it kind of begs the question, at what point is our evolution in technology going too fast, right? When we don't have enough information to justify what's going on, right? So it's kind of the idea of the Block Island wind farms, right? I think a lot of people didn't really know the impact that was going to happen, right? And from a fishing perspective, it was touted on, well, let's see what happens. There's going to be artificial reefs that are created from this, but no one's really quite sure what this means, right? And now that we've seen that the impact really is kind of dismal from an environmental perspective, and then from an electrical perspective and the economy that goes around it, it's not a huge, doesn't really move the needle all that much. But yet, despite we're going full force into something that we really have no idea what's going to happen here in New England. Well, we do have an idea based off what's in Europe. But we're not taking that consideration.
We're not. Sweden they're doing 20 new nuclear power plants. They're coming off wind. All the countries in Europe are getting off of it. They just, the Ukraine, the war in Ukraine, the Russians have hacked the German grid 3 times now in the last 3 months. And
not a lot of people know that because there's not a lot of information. You really have to dig. So, you see people in the comments. I try not to read the comments. Well, in Europe, it's fine. Europe is fine. I said, well, no, you're not. It's not fine.
And,
right. And the same thing's happening here where there's not a lot of information out there about what's really going on. I meet people every day
intentionally.
Intentionally. They have no idea that it's going on.
Well, it's very subversive how it's been pushed through. And you can talk to people And I've talked to many people, and they have no idea, any idea of the wind farms whatsoever.
Because there was never a vote. There's never been a referendum.
Right.
There isn't even environmental impact studies that have actually been published, because environmental impact studies require you to do one in each unique area that you encounter. And there's no question that the ocean is vast and has to be managed, you know, on a national level, and then on a regional level, and then on a state level, and on even a municipality level in a lot of places. None of that's been done.
Yeah.
Well, I've asked for 2 years for the environmental studies impacts from the wind farms. 2 years. And the same answer I got now, I got then. They don't have them.
Yeah.
They haven't done anything.
And
they
they,
don't care.
under state constitution, under Title 20, it's one of my favorite ones to bring up whenever I get involved with people. Title 20 gives ownership of all state waters to the residents of the state, and therefore anything that goes on within our waters, especially with the fishing industry involved, but never mind that, it goes so much further with clean water and all those things, and views, it matters. Real estate values, things like that. You know, waking up in the morning and being able to go down and have a nice clear view of that ocean that people really desire. It's desirable. It's a desirable place to live.
Right.
It's just there's no referendum, and that's because Title 20 would have to come into play. And nobody's talking about Title 20 in Rhode Island either.
Yeah. It all falls under the public trust doctrine.
Correct.
You know?
And therefore it should have to be voted on a municipal level first, town by town, and then on a state level through the legislature. It's like Civics 101 got thrown out.
Right.
And everybody expects some guy out in D.C. to do something, and it has to happen on a local level, which is, I think, why we're all here together. And if you fight it small, it can grow big, is the way I see it. So.
Right. Well, given that we all have different roles working on the water, right? Corey, your family's steeped in tradition, you know, as one of, you know, dubbed like the last trap family with that great YouTube documentary. Watched it several times. Ralph, you know, you owning Crafty One Customs, and then Dom, you know, you having your own charter business. So there's really interesting viewpoints all kind of falling under the same umbrella. So I think going around and just understanding more so on how this will affect your business going forward is probably a good place to also kind of move the conversation and make it productive, right? So Corey, why don't you kind of kick it off?
So I always think about, you know, coastal communities all over the world that fishermen are the backbone of coastal communities. And, you know, aside from, you know, this is probably going to affect the migration of fish, we're a passive fishery in that we don't chase the fish. The fish have to come to us. Our nets are grandfathered in where we can set them every year. And I have no doubt that, you know, basically a city out in the middle of the ocean where the fish migrate are probably going to affect us, not to mention all the cables and everything. And I just totally lost my train of thought.
That's all right. No, you're speaking from the... It's tough when your heart can't keep up with your brain.
How many cameras you got on it?
Well, with that pause, any chance we could mute that?
Put it down there. And I'll just dance. I'll dance. I don't have a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, but okay, back to the fishermen being, you know, backbone of fishing community, or, you know, backbone of coastal communities. I mean, just the businesses that we depend on alone to run our own business, from the ice company. A lot of my fish get sold down to the Fulton Fish Market, up to Canada, down to South Carolina. The forklift people, are, you know, the boxes. I mean, you know, we need all those businesses to make our business work, and it'll be a snowball effect. It's going to affect everybody. If it affects our fishing business, it's going to affect your business, it's going to affect your business.
Especially here in Rhode Island.
Especially here in Rhode Island.
Yeah. Ralph?
What?
Well, you mean you're kind of, you're more the recreational side.
So I guess my frustration with it, going back to, is that, yeah, so you know, on the capitalist side of it, which is I've been attacked for, you know, like, you only care about making money, and anybody that knows me knows that's not true. Okay, but I did go after my dream with the help of many friends, and one of which is here, and I'm not going to give that up. And what they're doing is not taking into account the effects of everyone that it's going to affect in all these small businesses, tourism, restaurants, real estate values, potentially in the long run, and let's not kid around, and people can say it's dramatic, but when you start digging and jet driving these cables through the water, going in, all the mercury are going to kick up. Let's not be honest, or let's not kid around. All the stuff that's been done here from the Revolutionary War through World War II, there's a lot of stuff that's been buried that is not good. And then you talk about our children and the water and everything. Like, you can go on and on and on. You can make it as dramatic as you want. My whole point is, I feel like there has been no awareness of this, and I use the word subversive again, that big money is coming in, which is foreign money, which is very frustrating to me, because we should be trying to make our own country better and trying to make our own lives better. And we are the smallest business in this country when you take the state. We're the smallest one with this amazing coastline, and yet why are we one of the biggest fighters in all of this? What is happening? You go right back to and not to be just a military guy, go back to the Revolutionary War. We're fighting again for our own land, but it's the water and the land, all right, and our livelihoods. And my father, God rest his soul, who did very well for himself. I used to always tell him when I was building rods and he didn't know if this was going to be a viable business, I'd say, Dad, do me a favor. When the money's not worth anything except for lighting it up and starting a fire, come to me and I'll feed your family, because we'll put fish on the table. Right?
True.
And so that's what I'm fighting for. I want my grandchildren to have the beauty of Rhode Island. I don't want my grandchildren to have the corruption of Rhode Island. I don't want my family to have this narrow view of Rhode Island. We're better as a whole, and we need to fight for it. And now we're going to put this up, and I'm worried about it. And then, yes, could it affect my business? I generally feel like that if this goes through and 2,000 windmills are put up 10 years from now, I might not have a business. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't know what else to say there.
Good. No, you hit on that point. For me, so being a charter captain, obviously I take not only local people who want to access, a shared resource. I take people from all over the world. I have a group with me this week that's from Denmark. I get people from Singapore. I've had guys from South Africa. They come to this area not only to enjoy the fishery and be able to access it, but be able to enjoy the pristine beauty and the steeped history that is New England. You come here and it's a cup of chowder and a lobster roll, and it goes from there. But they touched on the business aspect. For me, I think the most poignant effect I'm going to feel, and this is something that's been in my mind a lot, I liken it to the game preserves in Africa, down in South Africa. And so they have Cox's Ledge, which is one of my most special areas. It's an area that I have to access year after year after year to get my clients on fish. And the government, in its infinite wisdom, has decided to box off Cox's Ledge and to put everything on the outside of it and around it and inside of it. And then there's another little section, which is called the dump, which is literally the dump. And there's a lot of unexploded ordinances and things in there that can't be dredged up. So they've cordoned that area off too. So now we have two small little square blocks. Access to that area, sort of like if you took a little square section and put a large concrete wall around it in the middle of the Serengeti, and you expected the animals that flow through during the seasons, because they don't have a clock, they don't have a calendar. So they come and they go and they do it naturally, in symbiosis with one another. And when you box that off, you prevent access. And so now I've been prevented access, the fish have been prevented access, but more importantly, all that stuff around it wrecks that flow. That natural symbiosis will be destroyed forever. You're going to change currents. And so for me, what I feel is going to be the problem is that it's going to be unnavigable on top of all that. Talk about just the fish and the fish that are going to be there, me not being able to have those fish because they're not going to come through. There's land radar and air-based radar do not work around these windmills. They're 1,000 feet tall.
Well,
and so it's dangerous to even think about navigating through there, let alone spending time in there, because if something goes awry out on the ocean, it can happen like that. Search and rescue is an impossibility. And then that segues into national security. Who's going to sit out there and watch that 2,000 string array from the Gulf of Maine down to Virginia year round. Because what's the quickest way to cripple a country? Kill its
Power grid.
power.
I'm blaming it all on you.
That's good.
That's
Thanks.
not what you told me.
No. It was, I kind of, in my head, classified as like, what are the three things that I get concerned with about the wind turbines? And it's the intrinsic, I want to go out and go down to Point Judith and sit on Matunic, East Matunic, and see the ocean in Block Island. Now there's 5 little blinking lights out there, right? Then there's also then that falls under tradition as well. There's part of me that loves going out to my buddy Graham's oyster farm and watching them do their job and watching you do your thing, watching the charter boat guys out on the dock and BSing with people on the dock and taking people out and showing them how awesome our coastline is. Then there is also the economic side of it, right? The commercial fishing, what jobs are revolving around the state. And it's really hard to give like a definitive answer on why the wind turbines aren't exactly the best thing to go about, because there is so many intricacies onto it, right?
Okay, but
unless you are on the water, you don't really understand that.
That's true, but I mean, for those people that aren't in the water, it's the simplest analogy I can say. We're not going to the Amazon and ripping the Amazon down to put solar panels.
Well, actually, they probably are at this point.
Yeah.
Blackrock is doing their part to denude this planet right now.
So, but that's what we're doing,
Yep.
right? That's basically what we're doing, and I think that people don't get that. It's amazing to me, and I will say this, that the people that have all these beautiful houses on Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, that are on Block Island, that are on Ocean Drive, that have these, that have less concerns than I do. Let's just put it that way, okay? Don't realize, when people say you can't see the windmills from Newport. Really? Yeah, you can. You've never seen Block Island and you haven't looked.
Blissful ignorance.
Right. And now you put 2,000 of them up there, and then you're going to see them, but at night it's going to look like Logan Airport out there with all the red lights at 1,000 feet in the air, blinking lights. And then go back to the Coast Guard, and then our fellow brothers and sisters get hurt or something goes down. The Coast Guard, I don't blame them. They see a red light, but they don't know which direction these 370-something foot swinging. No,
turbines.
I'm hot. Like
Blades.
the blades are coming around. They don't know where they
Yeah.
are, and I don't blame them, right? So they're not going to go in, and they've already said they won't. Like that, we're going to cut off what's going on here. We're like, and so it's very frustrating, very concerning, and too many people. I guess the biggest thing that I think we all want from this, and people can educate themselves if they want to, is awareness. I think the biggest thing I want from this is awareness. I want people to understand this is much bigger than you realize. These things are being passed through. People are being bought off. I don't care. Whoever you are out there, from the governor of Rhode Island to whoever you are, you're being bought off. And how do I know that? Because I'm throwing a fishing tournament coming up, right? And I was called by the wind farms, and I was offered money to sponsor my fishing tournament, and I turned them down because they're trying to become part of the community, and I don't need it. I have integrity, I have character, and that's the problem. There are certain people in this industry, I'll say it, that don't have character and don't have integrity, and this is gonna get me in a lot of fucking trouble. There's my.
No, it's not.
Here's
It's
my.
not.
It's
Thanks
the
for
truth,
taking
though.
one for
It's
the
the
team.
truth. But
It's the truth. You got to look in the mirror at the end of the day, and those people do look in the mirror. Trust
And
me.
I also don't know where someone's situation comes from. I don't know what the fishing industry during COVID got crushed. Got crushed. So I don't know. I'm not going to judge them. Okay, but what I will say is that what's happening is a systematic destruction of Rhode Island and an industrialization of Rhode Island in our waters that is going to have impacts that when we figure it out, it's going to be far too late. Far too late. Okay. And when you have all the people in Newport that have their houses and they go, well, I don't want to look at all those red lights and I don't want to look at all this, and then they buy houses somewhere else. Why? I mean, we are one of the most beautiful places in the United States of America. period. Period. Right? Why are we not defending this more openly? I'm sick of people being afraid to defend what they believe in. But also, we've had conversations in the past, to be open to discussion and be adult enough to hear the other side and to agree to disagree. Right? That's why we vote. That's why, as a military person, and why every military person fought, so you have the right to vote for what you believe is right. But please, if you're out there, listen to us. Give us a chance and let us explain to you what we're trying to change here or make you more aware of.
One of the places that you can find out almost all the information that you need to know is the boem.gov. They have visual simulations of what it looks like from various places in Rhode Island, including Cliff Walk, the Marble House lawn. You can see them.
62-mile line of sight to the tip. And so other than the small little portion of Cape Cod that gets the benefit of Gay Head and the bluffs of Martha's Vineyard, you have an unobstructed view. Every piece of coastline, every beach you've ever visited in your lifetime, you're going to be able to see this dystopian monstrosity. It's sort of like Guillermo del Toro is writing The Twilight Zone.
Really? You went there?
Yes. I mean, it's really what I feel like every day when I wake up and think about it. It's that extreme.
Yeah. I'm more scared now than I was before I started.
But, you know, I do, and I still think people don't know the just sheer size of it. Like, you know, some of the people that have like taken money and stuff, I still don't think that they even realize.
It's more than the size of Rhode Island. The amount of windmills, 2,000 windmills, more.
It's 900,000 acres.
The rock
and
that they brought in from Canada equals 4 times the land mass of the state of Rhode Island.
It's just,
there's a good one for you.
Yeah.
Nuts.
They bought rock from Canada and then took it down boat by boat by boat.
Yeah. Where do you think the lack of awareness has come from?
I think it's been the lulling of the American populace for a long time myself. I can't speak for the other 2 people here, but since a kid, it's been the Chicken Little routine for me. Every 2 years, something's going to kill me. And yet here I am.
I think that is a problem that is bigger than people. One thing that's very frustrating, and I don't mean to go back to this, but I think it's important, going back to being a veteran, and I'm sorry to keep bringing it up. That's not trying to be, like, make a point, but this Democrat-Republican shit has got to stop. Like, you have viewpoints, but every Republican's not right. Every Democrat's not right. There is a point where when we keep going back and forth.
This went political quick. I got to interject.
Well, and I'm not trying to be political, but if you're going to be political and you're going to vote, then make sure. And we're not all educated on everything. Please trust me. I'm one of the dumbest fucking human beings on the planet. Okay, I have no problem with that. But at the same time, I am one of the few people that follows what's going on and tries to keep up on things that at least impact my life and my country. And that goes to say, too, that, by the way, the United States of America is not the fucking greatest place in the world. We need to be better. And this is not how we're being better. This sending all this money overseas, and Shell Oil, who knows that fossil fuels are dying, who has all the money, saying, you know what, how are we going to move here? What are we going to do here? And then they do this, and they come here. And
Shell, by the way, meaning you should segue and explain that Shell and Ørsted are one of the Shell. The oil companies are heavily divested in all of the wind companies, and so they're intertwined with one another. A lot of their permits that get pulled for the areas that they're in now, and the leases have step-back requirements for offshore drilling capabilities for petroleum products along with them. And so they kind of were all shoved into that beautiful COVID bill that's about 17,000 pages of fluff. I'm with you, Ralph, but it's not about politics. It's about something basic that she touched on, and that is history. You have to look to history to know your future, and you can't forget your history, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to forget our history.
Yeah, and I think that I guess that's actually we're saying the same thing, is that I don't care about the politics. I want the right thing done.
Absolutely.
That they're there to serve us. right? They're in a position to make the world a better place and listen to their constituents. And there was no listening. I'd like to know the amount of people in Rhode Island right now, if you were to take a poll that knows anything about these wind farms.
Very little.
They know not. Nobody knows anything.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And it's not just Rhode Island. It's Massachusetts. It's Connecticut. It's New York.
It goes all the way down to Virginia.
It goes all the way
It's going to
down.
go up north. A little drone
Maine.
went by me the other day for the Gulf of Maine now, and they're talking about these floating ones, which are even crazier, with 4 huge, massive concrete anchors, sort of like the offshore oil. And they're going to do it from the tip of Maine all the way down to the Regal Sword area before they have the critical habitat area that is the Nantucket Shoals and Georges Bank. But you can't keep critical habitat like pristine by destroying everything else around it. You're going to affect it. On oceans, it's seasonal and things come through, like you said. You got to wait for the fish. Well, that bottom has to wait for the right larva for the other larvae that are slightly larger to eat. It all
It's food chain.
Yeah.
And-
And as fishermen, we know the seasons.
as do the fish. That's all
Yeah,
they know.
yeah.
That's all they know is the seasons. And so
Yeah.
when you adjust it and you have a temperate area with cold water upwellings and warm water upwellings, and you destroy all of that, we're the blue planet, right?
Yeah.
And this is supposed to be a green movement. Well, blue and green make yellow. And yellow is the color of sickness. Funnily enough, it's the color of the turbine towers, too.
True.
Where the
A
hell
lot of
did you,
connections
are you
there.
fucking kidding me? You just
What?
came up with, did that come up now, or was that in your head before?
I don't know.
That's
It's
pre-planned.
free-form.
Let it flow.
That was from
Free
2
flow.
o'clock this morning.
Yeah, there we go.
About when I
Bit
started.
Less sleep, yeah.
And then went out on the ocean, but
No, I just think we're trying to make a difference, and we could, between the three of us, we could spew a lot of things that might turn people off on it. What we don't want to do is turn people off on it and make it a completely political thing or whatever it is. What we do want people is to go and investigate it on themselves.
Yeah.
And
For
one
sure.
thing that has not happened, that I know for a fact has not happened, and I will challenge Ørsted or any of the wind farms, the Fishery Advisory Board just completely resigned. Everyone resigned. Let's leave it's the elephant in the room, okay? Because they had a board and they didn't listen to them. If you really are serious about what you're doing and you really care, you're going to listen, or you're going to take into consideration. They haven't.
Yeah.
They don't care.
And some people were upset by them resigning. I think it was a powerful statement.
I
The
do too.
public wouldn't even know it was happening unless the news wouldn't have even covered it. It wouldn't have been
Got
written
a lot of
about.
press time
It got
as a
pressed, and
result.
no one would have known unless they had done that.
And I completely agree, because I've heard that from many people that thought that they quit. And it's like, what do you mean they quit? They've been fighting it for years. Where were you? Right? They didn't quit. They said, we're going to take another avenue because this avenue isn't working. Obviously, we can beat our fucking heads against the wall here and it's going to go nowhere. I choose to go a different direction, and that's actually why, full disclosure, why I reached out to you, because it's like we need to get this information out there.
Well, and also, I mean, you've had the same experience as I going to these meetings. I went to one of the CRMC meetings, got out at midnight. I had to get up at 4 the next morning to go fishing. I mean, they listened to us for 6 hours and then deliberated for 5 minutes. I mean, and the town council meetings and they don't care. I feel like the decision's already been made. And
it most certainly has.
and I keep telling people, like, yeah, go to the meetings, write letters. And honestly, I think it's probably a waste of time, but I still want people to speak out,
So, and going back to that too, though, which is very frustrating, because I hear that you're not going to make a change. Why are you doing this? Why are you affecting your business?
we can't. But I think in any voice that needs to be heard, a collective voice is what we're talking about here.
Right.
And I think that for me, and it's probably the same, but getting people's attention, maybe to the point where like a good punch to the jaw might get you to wake up. Maybe if we give society a little bit of a bloody lip, and everybody all of a sudden realizes how egregious this is. So for me, it's like, what avenue do you take? Do you take the whales and all the whales and the marine mammals that are dying? And, that aside, they're authorizing take permits. So they obviously know it affects them, or they wouldn't even.
Let's talk about that.
Well,
the country basically has said that they are allowed to take over 100 and
no. It's
117,000.
200,000 like large mammals. It's 790 something thousand total cetaceans, meaning the smaller ones like the dolphins and the seals, the pinnipeds. But the right whales. So there's 356 or so left. And they've issued 943 level A harassments, which is complete and utter deafness. Level B is forcing the animal away and causing it some undue stress. A level A harassment includes death. A deaf whale is a dead whale. The Navy got caught doing it off the Marianas Islands. So the beaked whales beached themselves about 6 or 7 days after some serious sounding. And the Navy got caught with their pants down. This is all something that anybody can go online and find out about. They know that low-frequency, high-powered sonar affects marine echolocation. And so a beaked whale washed ashore in Gloucester, Massachusetts back in June. First time it's happened since 1971. They're super rare. This one you can't call a ship strike. Guess what the scientists did? They showed up, they took the head, and they buried the rest of the whale on the beach. That's how little they care. Something so rare that they have so little chance to ever inspect died in front of some poor woman on her cell phone, calling it in right there on the beach. So it was a fresh kill. And rather than do a proper necropsy, they took the head off. And my side joke on it is it's probably sitting on the wall in Orsted, mounted.
Yeah. Well, also all the all the groups that are responsible for investigating marine strandings or deaths have been paid off by.
It's AMCs.org, and if you look at their
on the board of directors,
right.
but also Mystic Aquarium,
$1.25
New
million.
England Aquarium, Woods Hole Institute, Greenpeace USA, the list goes on and on and on and on.
And also part of that money, I love Mystic Aquarium. I did. Part of that money is now they have a offshore wind exhibit for kids. So now you're teaching the kids that the ocean is ours for the taking.
They're not. They were paid off to do that.
They were paid off to do that. But if you look in some of these contracts, like Nantucket had that good neighbor agreement, and I don't know if you guys read some of that. Part of
I can't read.
Part of that contract is that they have to promote offshore wind.
So this one affected you probably the most. The Woods Hole Institute was responsible for doing the economic impact that was going to occur with the fisheries in each state in the New England states. And Woods Hole Institute came up with a number. An independent research group came up with another number. The state of Rhode Island came up with a number. Woods Hole Institutes was the tiniest fraction of what the rest. And they wanted to buy you guys off, all of us off for that resource.
Yeah.
This is what they do. They want to come in and they want to buy everybody out.
Well, and that's the other thing, too, with the area that they're building on. There were no studies done on the recreational fishing of tuna, it gets into big things with the pounding. You talk about the squid, you talk about the lobster, you talk about everything. It goes down. It's destroying everything. And people, going back to what you said, and sometimes my hope is that people that are on the land a lot and love the ocean, but they don't go out there. They don't know where the dump is. They don't know, right? They don't know where the edge is. They don't know the shipping lanes. They don't know these things, right? They don't know Elbows Ledge. They don't get it, right? That they understand that please trust us when we tell you that this area that you don't go to vacation for, or you don't go to, is being destroyed. And it is a vacation spot in a way for many people, right?
There could be a sealer camp out there sitting down on the bottom and we wouldn't know it. We know more about the moon. I mean, come on.
No, it's just, and they're going out there and they're destroying these areas and they're putting these things up, and they literally are destroying the food chain.
Yes.
They're destroying the food chain. Because sometimes it can get, people that maybe have listened to us have been like, oh, my God, title this and title that and whatever you go. They're destroying our food chain. If you like cod is about to quadruple in price. If you like lobster, and if what they're talking about doing in the Gulf of Maine and the lease land, lobster roll right now is not cheap.
25 to $55 or so. It's crazy.
You will have to pull a second mortgage out on your house to have lobster. And to go back,
I don't think I've ever had to pay for a lobster roll.
right.
And membership has its privileges.
And to go back to the history of where we are, is Debtor's Island, which is where the Naval War College is, used to be called Debtor's Island. And when you couldn't pay your bills, that's where you were sent to farm land to pay your bills back in the day during whaling and everything back there. And what you were fed on a daily basis, and I hate to tell you, world, it would be phenomenal, was lobster and beer. Please, God, send me back there, right? I won't pay any of my bills, right? That was poor man's food back then.
Yeah.
Now, a lobster rolls on
They
average.
used to feed it to prisoners.
Prisoners,
Right.
prisoner
Right.
goes way back.
So and people they don't realize that, right? So it's like now
They call them bugs.
now we're going back to the opposite side of it. We're going back to, now it's $30 a lobster roll or whatever. And look, whatever these companies, these restaurants that we love, that we go to, we all have our favorite. We don't blame them for that. It's what's happening in the world. But let's stop it from happening more. Let's slow it down. Let's make it more enjoyable. Let's keep it alive. Let's have
Agreed.
our chowder.
I think where we can fight it, though, and something we should probably talk about, is you have to deny them access. And so if they can't bring their cable ashore, and this is a fight that's still ongoing here and hasn't really quite finished.
All right, so Portsmouth, Rhode Island, it's the town I live in, and where my business is, has been given $100,000 from the wind farms.
Which is nothing.
Which is nothing. And our town council, who I know many of them, say that they have listened to us, but yet they won't let us speak. You say that they've heard many people that are for foreign wind farms. How about that? Like that's okay, right? And people
Although I haven't seen any of them at the meetings.
Actually, they used to go, and then
okay.
I don't think they had.
Ralph kept showing up.
Well, they can't answer the questions.
Yeah.
Just do me a favor. Show me one fucking environmental study, one that your company's done. Yeah. Show me one. And they can't. To this day. Here you go, boys. You're out there.
Takes years.
Well, and if there are any studies, they're based on 5 small windmills.
Which are a failure. Let's face it. They haven't been spinning. There's been $92 million dumped onto the ratepayer. Here's the thing. Again, bring it back to the basic economics. What's everybody going to feel first? It's going to be their electric bill. It's going to be like, your car bill is like, oh, God, $650 a month. That stings. My mortgage is $2,200 a month. Well, guess what? Your electric bill is going to be somewhere hovering near the north end of your mortgage when this is all said and done.
I think I heard it was 64% increase.
64 across the world. That's irrefutable proof. That's something that really, and they don't even want to talk about that.
But it's green energy.
Alone. It's,
I don't know if it's green money energy or
it's
green.
Intermittent by nature.
Takes green out of your pocket.
It goes away. It's the sun. I mean, the sun is capable of capturing the power, but then you got to dump it into batteries. And batteries, I mean, let's just not even go there with that, with the rare earth minerals and all those poor children in China. I mean,
where are we going to
save the children in China?
Sweet Jesus, Tom.
We'll start there. It used to be save the kids. It would come UNICEF. It started with UNICEF. It started with Jerry. It started with the muscular dystrophy, the telethon. I mean, there's always been a cause. Why isn't there a cause on Mother Earth?
Yeah.
We need a good song.
Challenge.
You're true. We need a good song. So, I mean, when we joke about it, here's the other thing, too, by the way, for fishermen and anglers. You're a fisherman, right?
We're ball busters.
Yeah. There is not thin skin is not an option in this industry, and if you have it, you will be in it for seconds. Okay.
That's why when I cry, I go down below so no one sees me. Where do you go, Dom?
I cry. I let the world see it through my rage. I cry with yelling and screaming.
No, I've never
jump and shout. Let it all
out.
out.
I've never heard you yell. I've never heard you
It
yell.
won't solve your problems, but it makes you feel a hell of a lot.
But I think that this industry is tough, and it's a tough industry. And I take my industry here in this shop that we're in compared to what they do is nothing. right? What they do is
It's not nothing. You have to deal with people every day.
Yeah, that's
It's harder
harder
to me.
The
That
fish,
is my
the fish
worst
is
nightmare.
easy.
Fish
The
don't talk
weather's
back to
easy
you.
because the weather is
We're
what
out-
it is. It's
we're
the
outside.
people.
We don't have to deal with
it's the
people. We're
people.
just-
Yours is a lot harder, brother.
A lot harder.
but we
True story.
I'm trying to save my business right now. By not saying, but what we want people to know is that we are an army of people. We're trying to explain to you to be better and to learn. And by the way, if you're a banker or you're a busboy, or I don't care what you do. I don't care if you're a billionaire, or I don't care if you're someone who works 4 jobs. I want to make your life better. That's it. That is my American dream, is to make this world a better place.
There you go.
And we're fighting for that right now. That's what we're actually fighting for. It is about us to a point. Like, you got to be honest. But at the same time, we're seeing the vast. This is going to decimate Rhode Island.
Right, it's going to decimate everything. You're connected. We're all connected here in this room right now. We're connected to the ocean that we ply. We're connected to the ocean that they're trying to put these turbines in. It's connectivity, and to feel connected to something. Well,
And we want to spread the word. I mean, that's what it did.
If you take Texas, for instance, and you take the prospering areas of Texas, right, Houston or any big state, okay, we're itty bitty. We're like, I don't know what size of Houston is, so I can't speak to that. But compared to Rhode Island,
Well, there's a ranch in the state of Texas that's bigger than Rhode Island.
right, right.
Yeah.
So, but
We're peanuts.
right, we can be decimated in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
We need to fight harder for what we have. I mean, we were originally founded for religious freedom and to give people a chance to be who they are and not to be restricted.
And that's pretty ballsy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not a little bunch of fucking pussies,
oh, wow.
right?
Wow, my wife
I was
does not, you
waiting
can't
for
use the
someone
P
to-
word. That's like, you can say anything other than the P word around here.
Well, I just did, so I'm
P-word,
sorry. I love you.
P-word.
She knows I do.
Earmuffs.
But we're not, and I'm sorry for you, but that's on me. I'm
We
the
got
one that
Tyler.
break-
He'll
no,
bleep
but,
it out.
No, yeah, bleep it out, dude. Don't, because guess what? We're not here. We're not here to be stepped on. We're not here to be nothing, right? And we're not here to be also taken advantage of. We are being taken advantage of right now. And we're being taken advantage of by foreign money. And they're going to walk away from it. So we go to the other side of this.
There's no dismantling that stuff.
Yeah, you got 20 to 30 years on these.
No,
If that.
no, the Block
That's-
Island, and so repair or replace. So Block Island has 5. Number 4 is a complete replace. The Mercer C is a big one. Mercer C is something like 1,300 or so. It's just slightly smaller than the one off Thanet in UK. And over 47% of the field has to be replaced by GE due to stress fractures.
Wow.
Those are 350 feet high.
And by the way, they don't have hurricanes.
Correct.
Right.
Lightning strikes. I mean, the list goes on and on. You're not going to be able to land a crew out there to service any of these things from October to March.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, on one of those little 83. So they're 83 feet across to give you a sort of scale. They're 83 feet across, and they have a tiny little landing platform that a boat has to come up and dump a work crew on, and then they have to go up inside to fix this turbine. And this is not going to happen.
And that's what I guess what I'm trying to get at is that bottom line of the simplicity of the common sense that this will fail. We take everything we've talked about. You cannot put 2,000 of these things, and I don't know when.
Metal structures.
Metal
and
first off.
salt water's done so well with one another over the years.
I had a steel boat.
We haven't even talked about the birds, which by
Oh,
we
yeah.
haven't even
Don't
talked
even go
about
there.
the birds.
Don't go there.
okay?
Don't.
We talked about whales. We really there's so many
There's
different areas,
so many layers.
so many layers to
It's
this.
an onion. And there's just not enough time. We'd have to spend, 3 months of our lives sitting here disseminating
That's why I
each
tell
and every
people, go to
piece.
boem.gov. Like, that is our government are
So then-
behind the
so
website.
let me
You can
flip
find
the
it.
Bureau of
script
Ocean Energy
All right,
Management.
flip the
Yes,
script.
thank
Hold
you.
this,
Barack
though.
Obama's energy
Hold that.
empire.
No, I'm not worried about it. Go for it. I'm a big boy.
So-
I literally am a big boy. Don't worry
So-
about it.
Someone who is in favor for the wind turbines, right?
Is you?
No.
Oh, you're not walking out of this fucking
No.
shop. Right.
What do you say to them if they're coming to you in short? Because there are some, by their opinion, but in their perspective,
Sure.
right?
My impression of those people is that they're either getting paid by them or they don't know. And usually it's they don't know because they think it's one company. Because that's, that you only hear about one company at a time.
Yep.
So when we went to one of the informational meetings, they said, no, you won't be able to see our
and they
wind
showed
turbines.
you this area.
You won't be able to see our
Not
wind
this area.
turbines from shore. So people are like, oh, okay, I'm fine with that. They don't mention that they're one of 9 companies. So maybe we won't see their particular wind turbine, but we'll see the thousands ahead of them.
Chrysler building.
So I think that if people
Chrysler
are
building.
for that, it is because they think the renewable energy is good. And again, we're not against renewable energy. And it's just they don't
So you
have
think
all
it's
the
more of an
they don't have
ignorance
all
You're not
the, it's more of
against
an
it.
ignorance thing. They don't have all the information.
Yeah.
I'm
So it's
against
interesting
using
when you go to these
1500-year-old
boat shows, when you
technology.
go to
I know.
the Solar Anglers Association show back in what, January is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
March.
March. You always see, I was in the same thing with boat shows, right? You see these wind farm companies sitting there with their table,
Yeah.
and not one person's at it.
Oh, I went to it. I had a
Sure
lot of
you-
fun.
sure-
I enjoyed
sure you
it.
did.
Just so we know.
Poor college intern getting a mouthful.
And that's the other thing
I know.
too.
I do feel bad for.
That's the other thing too. You have a bunch of young people that are fighting for this, which I've seen, and I'd love to have a conversation with the things I've seen in my life and the time I've been around. But I'd hope that they're open. So you say, what would you say? I'd say, are you mature enough to have a mature, and it may sound insulting, but are you mature enough to agree to disagree and have a conversation and maybe change my mind? I'm open to that. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. But I would be open to that conversation. And when you try and have those conversations with some people, they back off. Maybe because they don't know enough, and I don't know as much as either one of these two do. I take it more on a common sense level, and I look at the things, and I read or I listen or I watch, and I go, well, that just 1 and 1 doesn't equal 2. And I know we have a new math, and I don't know how to get here to there, but it sure as fuck isn't 2. I don't know where we're going here, and so
Well, also things are unfolding in real time. We're all learning as things
why did the
happen.
Fisher Advisory Board? Why did they? All of them resign. Why did all of them say, you know what, enough's
Integrity.
enough? Integrity.
guess.
Yes,
I
and
think that
character.
had a lot to do with it.
Which is a powerful statement, especially now in today's day and age.
Yeah.
Yes.
Frustration, but frustration usually leads to I'm in Florida, I'm not coming in to work up in New York type situation. It doesn't involve a well thought out letter and after years of service
Yep.
resigning. That was an integrous decision on their part, I think, truly. And I think a lot of people are trying to take that road, that higher level, but the passion gets in the way. Myself, I would say to someone that's pro wind, I would ask them intermittently. You see the wind blow and the wind stop and the sun shines and the sun doesn't. Do you think you could last for maybe 5 or 6 days without power? And at the end of that 5 or 6 days, how are you going to feel? I would want to have a conversation from that point forward, just to go back to the basics and ask them, if you're so wind turbine, I want you to explain to me when a hurricane comes through and that grid goes out and they can't go out and get them spinning again. It's just 5 or 6, never mind 30.
Right.
You mean my iPhone doesn't work?
That'll get the kids' attention.
Oh my god.
And then they're going to come running to you for food, fresh food. So, maybe we might be onto something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Maybe
guys
we
might
should
make
just
a
cut the
killing.
cord as a
Yeah.
test and see what happens.
Just
Right.
remember, world, when it all goes south. if
Well,
you
there'll be a
wanna
lot of
eat-
starving people. I'm guessing the people here and their ability to go
Yeah,
out
right.
and catch fish, I think we're going to be all right.
Yeah.
But,
If the Fisher's still there.
If they're still there.
So that kind of brings up another thought too. Kind of again playing devil's advocate. There, and you had brought up nuclear energy before, which, for some odd reason, the United States has totally blackballed nuclear energy for whatever reason.
Right.
That's a whole other
Right.
ball of wax.
Right.
I
Well, we
will-
use
I
it
will-
on
Another podcast.
Another
But we use
podcast.
it on a daily basis,
Right.
just so we know.
But let's, forgetting, not having that in the
Government.
conversation. You go back to New Bedford was the was the port that lit the world, right? And then you have the evolution of horse and buggy to car, right? Cars to planes. And then we're in this period of time where technology is rapidly evolving. And take, for instance, the iPhone, right? Having a computer more powerful than the computers that put someone on the moon, right? And in such a short time, we've noticed a lot of different challenges, a lot of negative effects, but a lot of positive effects. You know, like for instance, social media. Everyone
That's
wants
a positive effect?
Yeah, I'd say so.
It's one of the dumbest fucking things
well,
that ever happened.
I don't know.
on
I'd
this
say I
planet.
disagree with that.
It's a way to spread the word.
Because without social
It
media,
does make a movement.
it gives the power to the people, to some degree, right?
I agree.
To some degree. So what do you say to the idea of, you know, there needs to be, in some places, there is sacrifice in order to keep moving forward, right? There is people that naysay putting oil into lamps. They're like, why do we do that? We have fire, right? Or why make a wheel when you got, you know, someone to walk under 2 feet?
Yeah, but people
right?
don't know how to make those things anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, someone knew how to snell a hook and snell a knot, and they don't know how to do it anymore.
Skynet.
Yeah, they don't know how to. So,
Okay.
yes, we're advancing forward, but we're ignorant. We're going backwards as a human race.
So we're devolving.
We're devolving, yes.
Yeah, I'd have to
and
The devolution of man.
and so we're
Because we're going back 1,500 years with the technology we all came here to talk about. Wind power, they got rid of it 1,500 fucking years ago.
we're getting ignorant, and we're also getting where people who speak out are not a good thing. And
Yeah, people are afraid of being canceled, which is a whole stupid.
are being judged
Yeah, or being judged.
or
This
being
podcast might get canceled. Who knows?
No, I mean
I know.
but
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, you take a
It
chance in
is.
this,
You take a
and
chance.
but you know what, I take a chance in this. It's my business. I've already had customers that have come in here and won't shop with me because I'm against the wind. I'm against the wind farms or whatever you want to call them, and it's like, wow, you're shallow. You're shallow. Like you didn't ask me to educate myself.
Do you think the term wind farm was done to kind
No,
of
I
make
hate
it
wind.
cute and romantic?
I say offshore wind. I don't.
Offshore wind.
I keep saying it. I must
Industrial,
say, I know,
offshore
I do.
wind array, but I think wind farm gives you this cute little picture, like
In
a little
Holland.
Dutch guy.
Yeah.
Wow, you just took the words right out of my. Get out of my head.
rusting, diesel spewing, oil spewing. Like it's bad.
Well, you get the inverter. I mean, we're literally like we talk about the advancement, Zach. We're to the point where quantum physics, fusion technology is somewhere down the line here
Christ,
within
what's
20,
the
30 years
quantum
ago. Well, no,
Yes!
quantum physics has been discussed, and quantum physics is now something within
I'm a
like
geek.
certain people's comprehension. But we're turning to this ancient technology to sort of advance civilization somehow. I find it backwards in thought and backwards in the advancement that you were talking about and how quickly it goes, that we would ever be having a conversation of reverting to something that's already been proven to be inefficient.
Really good point.
At the very minimum, we went to the water wheels because water is always flowing in the rivers, and they realized right away that those big nasty wooden wind things only worked every now and then to grind their oats and make their bread. And so the spreading and the advancement, like I talked about with the Basques, salt, and then the ability to salt meat is what got us here. And then they started with the wind, and it just didn't work. So then they went to water, and hydro worked for them. So they built mills all over New England.
Covered in them.
And learned how to use the flowing water to create the power that was necessary.
Which also had a large effect on our fisheries with the herring.
Right. Why would you go backwards?
Like that.
It's very good.
Just I don't understand why we'd go backwards.
Well, let's just take if literally for whatever reason we'll just say that we had no electricity right now. The lights went out. Everyone would be happy and not have to listen to me anymore. But let's just say for 1 month we had no electricity. How many people would not be able to survive?
Oh shit! The purge would happen like 5 days
95%.
in. I don't think we'd make it a week
Probably
before
90.
shit
I'm
went
talking
awry.
about-
Anarchy, Ralph. Anarchy.
Think about the kids would probably be the first one. But
Hide your wife, hide your kids. They're raping people up in this joint.
Jesus. Dude, think about. Let's just say it happened. You're welcome to this, but let's just say it happened in January.
Yeah.
Let's just say it happened in
Oh
January.
shit, death.
Right?
Instant
Happened
death.
in January. Who would, like, they
Yeah,
they
you're
would
talking
expect-
days to
no,
mass death.
I'm
That's
not
a
going
good
to
point.
survive without my
That's a
coffee.
good point.
Yeah.
You can make coffee
Well, think about
with
a
wood.
snowstorm.
That's true. I could totally.
You would figure it out.
Oh, I would
Well, they
figure
saw
it
it
out.
firsthand in Texas.
Coffee would be figured out.
with the
Coffee
freeze.
would be figured out first.
Yeah, a big winter storm.
They killed
shuts-
197 people in Texas, and it was only down for 5 days
Right.
because they were on electric heat. Not a lot of people even had it, and they couldn't plug in their quartz heater, and they couldn't, you know.
Well, Joe Rogan has a good skit where when they lose the power, everyone congregates with pitchforks and fire and go, "Well, I hope someone's fixing it." You know?
Right.
That's
I
kind
don't
of
know,
the
what-
right. That's what's going to happen out there in the. I mean,
Right.
who knows how to? How many people can actually scale one of those things? I would
Right.
imagine the worker pool and the actual employees that could even do that is
Well, and
kind
that's-
of a minimal age and a certain body type and.
But is that job going to stay here? Let's go to that. Are we actually, like...
No,
are they-
actually, like, and on the BOEM site, if you go, like, it'll actually say the jobs. Like, I think Revolution Wind said overall it'll be like 50 permanent jobs when it's all said and
That's
done.
it.
And how many jobs are going to be lost? Like,
Right.
So many.
know.
Tourism. Just think of
Yeah.
the impact on tourism alone.
I mean, there's again so many layers.
And people like to think, it's the fishing industry is just the guy on the boat and the crew, but in reality, like you said, it's
Might
the
be-
ice
New
New
Bedford
houses.
is the
It's
second largest grossing point in the U.S.
U.S.
Yeah.
Fulton Fish
Outside of
Market,
Dutch Harbor,
the
Alaska.
first. They're the first. They're bigger than
Dutch
Dutch
Harbor.
Harbor.
Oh, really?
No, New Bedford's
New
the first.
Bedford's the number.
Is it
is
number
number
one?
one.
One due to the scholars.
The second,
scallops.
I was going to say, is Fulton Fish Market
Fulton.
is the second largest fresh seafood market.
And then
in
you
the
got
world.
Gloucester, which is in the top 10 still as well. Gloucester's
Yep.
still a big working port. But people got to eat.
Yeah.
It doesn't come prepackaged in
Yeah.
a little cellophane cute wrapper. People actually have to go out and harvest.
And this is
seafood.
food independence, too. I mean,
Well, and then you talk about it right now. I hear people complain. Go to your market and check out the price of what your food is. And you're complaining right now. Well, guess what, guys? We're trying to keep the price of your food down by what we're talking about right now.
Yep.
We're trying to keep the price of your food down. And yes, it keeps us in our jobs. But at the same time, you're asking for cod to be $79.99 a pound. I don't know what it's going to be because it'll be so. I mean, Cox's Ledge.
If it's even there,
If it's even
like,
there.
like
Right,
Captain
because
Corey
Cox's
mentioned,
Ledge
if it's
is-
even there.
Yes, it's an area that is a breeding ground that they're pounding right now. And by the way, this is something I did just. If you are on a boat, and hopefully when people see this, they'll respond below. Like you can hear it and feel it from miles away when they're driving these pylons. And this week,
Like you're at an AC/DC concert
You
with
can-
your ear up
you can-
against
you can feel it when I've watched
Thump.
videos. I can feel it like through my phone.
from your
like,
butthole to the top of your. Yes.
you can feel it.
It goes
And
right up through you. He's
and-
not lying.
and
20
this-
miles away, I can hear it.
This week we've had 2 whales that have on Monday and today 2 whales that have popped up that are dead. All right.
What's the count up now?
70.
We're at
That's just for whales.
73 or 74 like large whales. We're at 300 and change that they've actually found and even counted. You know, here's the thing: the currents
what we know
usually
about.
bring them offshore, and then they sink when the gas is released. They go down there, and then there's a documentary, The Blue Planet. Go check it out. They follow a whale to the bottom of the ocean, and then they leave a camera on it for like 6 months and watch all the different animals, the lampreys, and all the sharks that show up first, and all the deep sea critters, like they all feast, and and then it's just whale bones. I mean, that's what's going on out
And
there.
now
that
it's
you're not
being
seeing.
blamed on ship strikes.
Right, and a lot of
Yeah.
people go to PetSmart, okay? And I don't know, and I'm this sadistic human being that has gone to PetSmart, and then I took and I like hit the glass like this, and I know it doesn't make me a good human, but I've done it, and you watch all the fish go away from it, and anyone's, don't go do this. Like, let's just put this disclaimer up, okay? But let's take that they're saying it's going to take approximately 10 years for them to put these 2,000 pylons in, okay? And every single day they're doing this. What are our fish going to do? They're going to go away
They're
from
going to
it.
leave.
They're going to go away. And by the way, onshore, where we are now, as close, we hear it. You feel it. They're not going to come closer to us. We're not going to get more fish. They're going to go farther away. They're going to go farther away. They're going to go into non-federal waters, which maybe that's the plan. I don't know. But they'll
I
go
think
out.
it's little stamped pieces of food that come off an assembly line. That's what I think. Protein built in a
But
lab.
they're going to. I mean, if you're a whale, if you're anything that I'm not going here. I don't want this migraine. I don't want this. I'm going to go away from it, right? And that's just common sense. It's just common sense that that's going to happen. And so why are we allowing it to happen over 10 years? And then, by the way, in that 10 years, let's say we give them 20 years on the windmills. I was giving them 20 to 30 years because that's what they say.
The ones at Block Island didn't make 7.
That's what they say.
So
I'm saying that they've
been telling you things your whole life, kid.
And they call it routine maintenance when they're not. When they're not.
Oh, I'm trying to give.
Who's this they? Have you ever met one?
Yes, I've talked to them on the phone. They just tried to, anyway. Okay. But I'm just saying that within 10 years, we're going to have failures, right? And it's going to continue to fail and continue to fail. And they're going to go away, or they're going to file bankruptcy, or they're going to change the names, and they're going to leave us with a fucking bill, right? And they're going to leave us with the bill, and whether it be in our energy bill, or they're going to leave it with the bill when it comes down to your family history, and you're the one that's fighting to keep it alive. This industry is tough, by the way. Fishermen are tough to deal with. Legit fishermen are tough to deal with. She's a total pain in the ass. But we're dealing with that alone and trying to get together, and then you have these other things going on, and it's doomed to fail. Please help us stop this failure.
So if I'm someone at home listening and I have no connection to, not that most people that listen to this podcast are associated with what we do, love the ocean to some extent.
Right.
But if I'm someone that is living in Smithfield, Rhode Island, don't go to the beach, and I want to learn more, but also know how I can actually help be a part of the fight, what do you say to that person? How can that person help?
I keep telling people to just keep spreading the word. Like I said, I mean, I keep meeting people that still don't know that it's going on. And, I tell people to go onto the BOEM.gov site because all the information, there's thousands and thousands of pages of information. And this is not to self-promote in any way, but on my Instagram page, I put stuff up in my stories, with links to the articles or the information where I get it, so you can look at it yourself.
So you can fact base it.
Yeah, and I try not to be biased. I know I am a little bit, but I really just try to put the stuff out there, and people can take it or leave it, and. It's just really about educating people.
And if you're in Smithfield, Rhode Island, and you do not eat fish, you hate fish, you don't go to the ocean, you hate the water, you care nothing about that. I'll tell you where you're going to care about it is in your pocketbook. You're going to pay for it in energy. Period. End of story. And by the way, all this wind turbine energy, when it comes ashore, it can't be stored. So once we reach a certain, they can't store it. It's not like we can go, wow, we had a hurricane and everything survived and we have energy for 2 years. No. It only goes to a certain point to where we cannot keep this stored.
Same problem with solar.
And, yeah. And then
solar's vastly better at capturing energy. The problem is holding on to it.
Until a great hailstorm. But it's the same thing. Like these are flawed programs. They're flawed programs, right? And by the way, anybody's flawed. Everyone is flawed. Every business is flawed. But they just have a ton of money to go, I don't care if we're flawed. We're fucking doing this. And we need to say no.
And also, I know it's a hypothetical scenario, the family that doesn't care about fishing or whatever. I guarantee they know someone who will be affected directly by it. I mean, it's the ocean state.
Yeah. Small state.
Yeah.
Tiny. 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
Which doesn't exist. Don't even get me going.
Right. But
it's another podcast.
No, we want people. Well, I guess what we hope, and the reason we're here, and we appreciate your time, and we appreciate anybody who's taken the time to get this far into this, is that we want you to make an educated decision. We want you to go, these are 3 idiots. Right?
No, you definitely don't speak for me, sir.
These are 3 people that we know what we believe in. We're not going to shut you down. If you'd like to talk, you ask people. I'm willing to open my doors. I'm a shop. Come on in. Let's talk. Just have your ears open when you come in and you want to talk, because I'm going to take you to a couple of websites and I'm going to show you things that are going to shut you down. And if it doesn't, I'm going to realize that maybe potentially you were paid to come in my door.
I see it a little more like sort of you did and she did, in that I think people are just blissfully ignorant of the whole thing. And so for me, the BOEM website, which stands for people that don't know, that's
By the
the
way,
Bureau
they've
of
taken money,
Ocean
too.
Energy Management, and that was a task force. There was a bunch of appointed people during the Obama administration that's carried through and carried forth.
Don't be
They're using, I'm just explaining the process. They're using eminent domain. They're taking the ability to make decisions and make things against the normal legislative procedures. And so Civics 101 is what I would like to tell that family from Smithfield, is that it has to start on a local level. And if it might not affect you, it's going to affect somebody you know and somebody that's near and dear to you. At the very minimum, it's going to affect your pocketbook, like you said. So that's definitely going to happen. But I would want people to be just more edified. And the BOEM website's a great one to go to. I think it's the only one that gives you just like straight facts, because it's all entered into the federal
by
registry.
someone that's pro. Well, they're obviously pro wind, but it's not written by someone
It's just the facts.
an opponent. It's just the facts.
And so you can make up your own mind about whether it's good or not. But I think it's spreading the word and just having the conversation first. But do your research. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with that said, I think that's a good point to close it out.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
Fuck you, Zach.
Thanks, Ralph.